So I was out here last night and these cook's drawers were giving them a hard time, but they were so busy I couldn't do anything with them. So what I'm here today is I had them pull all the product out of here, and I'm going to go through and check these things out. There's two coils, and you see the way that I have them facing. I actually have them facing backwards because I have the evaporator coils blowing on these pans to help cool them when they're having high temperature issues. So I had them pull the food out, and I'm going to clean the fan guards because I already found some plastic stuck to the fan guards. So I've got my big giant brush, and I'm going to brush the fan guards, and then we're going to put our service gauges on the unit and check the system out and see what's going on. So I got them cleaned off. They're moving air. They feel like they're working, but of course I got the drawers off, so I got to put them on to temp them. But next thing I'm going to check is drawer wheels. They're going bad. And also, it's probably hard to hear on video, but I can hear a fan motor going bad. I can hear it whining down. So we need to get new wheels. And then also, these mullions are loose. So that's not going to make for a good gasket seal. So that's another problem. Got to get those fixed so that way we can get a good seal going on there. So far everything is checking out as far as pressures go. I've got a clear sight glass on the roof. Suction line's nice and cold coming back. I'm running about 27 back, about 260 head pressure. It's 90 degrees outside, heating up as it goes. That is an oversized condensing unit, so my head pressure and my suction pressure are going to be a little bit on the low side. But I'm not seeing anything scary that's jumping out at me right now. My box temperature is 37 degrees up at the top there. And my coils, I have this thermometer on both of my coils, just getting outlet temperature is relatively close to each other, so that's the left and the right coil. All that that's doing for me is just helping me to know if my coils are actually working. This number doesn't mean anything really, besides the fact that it's blowing out 31 degree air and 33 degree air. But we really don't use that for diagnosis other than to tell us that the TXV is working in each coil. So if there was a problem, I would see one blowing out at 40 and one blowing out at 31. That would tell me that one of the TXVs wasn't working. But so that's just an aid. What I'm really concerned about is my return air temp, which is right here, 36 degrees. So that looks good. Yeah, so we're just watching it come down to temp. My biggest issue is the drawers not shutting, the wheels being bad, the gaskets not sealing, the mullions being loose. I think that's what's going on here. This is our refrigeration equipment in here. It's going to get loud. So we've got a clear sight glass. The time clock has the right time, and it has very minimal defrost. Every 4 hours it does a 15-minute defrost, and in the middle of the night they do like a 2-hour defrost. So the defrost clock is fine. Everything's looking good. I'm not seeing problems with the condensing unit, and my refrigerant pressures are still running great. So we're just watching the box. I want to actually see it satisfy. So, all right. So here's what I'm finding. My box is working great right now. You can't see my pressures, but what's happening is the box has been sitting at 34 degrees box temperature for about a half an hour, and it won't satisfy. I've been waiting to see where it satisfies at. So I came up here and I did a test on the suction valve of the compressor. And even though it's bringing it down to temperature right now, the suction valve won't pull down past 5 psi. So what I did was I front seated the suction service port with my service gauges on there, and it sits there at 5 psi and runs and runs and runs and runs and runs. I get it to come down to 4 psi, and that's about it. Then I shut it off, and my pressure rises to about 20 psi. So what happened here is we have a very weak suction valve, or a slightly weak suction valve. And where you really start to see that come into play is when you have a really, really high ambient temperatures and a really heavy load. And that's what we're seeing. That kitchen has a really hard time getting down to temperature because they have really high humidity where it's at. So that kitchen gets to like 85 degrees during the day. And this equipment, even though it's working right now, it's falling off the map once it gets really hot because the compressor basically is weak. So we're gonna have to change the compressor. Okay, I'm currently just finished up recovering the charge. This is an instance where the Appion Megaflow manifold is really gonna make a difference with the bigger diameter hoses. It is 110 degrees outside. I recovered probably 8 pounds of 404A in probably 8 minutes. I have my tank flipped over, hooked up to the vapor port, submerged in ice water with a bigger diameter hose for the discharge, a bigger diameter hose going to the Megaflow, and then bigger diameter hoses going to the machine. Recovered the charge and pulled the Schrader out with the Schrader core removal tool. And then now we're going to change out the compressor. Okay, so this is just a little recap. We had a service call on some cook drawers not working. I went out there the night previous to this video to work on an AC, and they asked me to look at the drawers also. But there was nothing I could do about the drawers because they were just so busy. So I went out the next morning, and the box seemed to be working okay, cleaned it up a little bit. But what I found was that the unit had a weak suction valve on the compressor. So the valve was weak, and it was causing the unit to fall off the map or not temp when it got really high ambient temperatures. Basically, when it was really working hard, that's when it wouldn't come down to temperature. So while I was there, the box was actually down to temperature, but I couldn't see the box satisfy. It would just sit there at, I think it was 35 degrees, 34 degrees, and it would never satisfy, and I think it was set for like 30 degrees. So I went ahead and replaced the compressor, and everything was working great after that point, okay? It's kind of hard to get some of those videos, especially when it's 110 degrees outside. I really didn't think about picking up the camera, or didn't want to pick up the camera while I was changing that compressor, because I just wanted to get the job done. But I did kind of point out, you know, that tip about the recovery using the Appion Megaflow and the bigger hoses. That really helps a lot, okay? Other than that, that's pretty much it, guys. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Leave me a comment. Give me a thumbs up. Suggestions. Go into my show notes. You'll find my Patreon page. You'll find my email. You know, all the links for all the software that I use for editing. And I'm going to start putting links to the tools and different things that I mentioned. So like, for instance, I mentioned the Appion Megaflow kit. Eventually, not right now, but I'm going to start putting those links in the show notes also. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, thanks guys.